Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life and fiber, and fiber. So, the reason I wanted to emphasize the fiber part is because we have a new article here from the New York Times, and I will leave it in the description down below so you guys could check it out because this is very important to the new AT&T that we're witnessing and that we're seeing them develop into. Why this $100 billion deal the worst merger ever? Or was this $100 billion deal the worst merger ever? And how did it go so wrong, right? So to speak on that very briefly, and also why I bring up the fiber and emphasize that at the beginning of the video, Randall Stevenson, I just want to leave that name out there. He was focused on a vision. He was very stubborn on that vision that he didn't feel there was enough to monetize and to grow anymore on the communication side, that he needed to get into media to keep the company growing and leave investors with, hey, there is some upside on this media. But it just didn't work out. There wasn't enough focus from the entire team. Only Randall Stevenson had focus around it. They had the money, but there just wasn't enough focus. They didn't make the right moves. They didn't really know how to properly advertise and market this. The systems weren't in place to make it a smooth transition and experience for the consumer and the store reps. The DirecTVs, adding that into the system for the store reps, it was a complete disaster. It still is, because they can still sell it. Although they don't own it no more outright, they can still sell it in the system. It was just a mess on the Opus, I think was what the tool was called, or the software. It was just a mess. The company overall really wasn't ready for this merger. They had the money, they bought DirecTV, they bought Time Warner, and they weren't really ready for it. They just weren't. So that's why I think the merger was a bad mistake. It was a disaster because AT&T didn't really want it. Not everyone was on the same sheet of music here. It was a Randall Stevenson vision. He was the CEO at the time. He was stubborn. He didn't take no for an answer, and they ended up with a mess. They ended up getting rid of him. They got a new CEO with John Stankey, and he's now trying to correct those wrongs. He got rid of media, and he's trying to move into the fiber now. So just imagine if they would have invested the $100 billion into fiber. That would have been a completely different AT&T today. And that's why I emphasized the fiber at the beginning, because that's where they're heading. They're moving into a direction, and I know I'm speaking very speculative, very future talk, but they're heading into a direction where they're going to be a fiber company. That's what they're going to be. Wireless is going to be on the back burner. And I know that might shock you. That might have you thinking like, oh man, what am I talking about? I'm not talking about this year, next year. I'm talking about 2025 and beyond. AT&T is going to become a fiber company. I don't know if you can see it yet, but I can see it. I can see it. And the reason I can see it is because of the moves that they're making and what fiber is actually doing for the company. Right? Wireless is still going to be there. I'm not saying it's going away. It's still going to be there, but it's going to take a back seat. I guarantee it. I'm very confident when I say that. Why is it going to take a back seat? Because fiber unlocks so much more for the company right now. Right? They're not doing fixed wireless access, so they don't have a use case to monetize on the C-band. So even if they focus and shifted more of the CapEx towards C-band and, oh man, 130 million pops covered end of year, maybe 140, 150. They're moving at a good pace. So I think maybe 150, 140 is realistic. And now what? What are they going to monetize, right? The same user that is still on AT&T that got 80 megabits per second, maybe 100, now is getting 300, 400, 500 megabits. But yet they're not paying more for it. So AT&T right now is not getting a return on investment on the C-band deployment. They're not. The reason it's so important for T-Mobile and Verizon to expand, to grow, is because of fixed wireless access, because that's an additional added revenue and profit to the company. It just makes sense, right? Internally, Verizon and T-Mobile really don't care as much for the regular mobile user. Yeah, it's a better experience. It's there's no congestion, but that user doesn't pay them more. Maybe they get a step up to the higher plan, but that's it, right? There is no other use case right now. But fixed wireless access for both of them, as they continue growing the network, as they continue expanding 2.5, it's a huge deal. It's definitely a huge deal for the company because they are slapping on 600,000 new fixed wireless access customers a quarter, right? AT&T doesn't have that. So there's no additional monetization from the C-band capacity. AT&T customers literally in the short term and midterm are going to be riding on a network that's going to deliver 5, 6, 7, 800, maybe a gig. And AT&T is not monetizing any of it because there's no use case. So that's why I emphasize fiber. Why do I say AT&T becomes a main focus company on fiber? Because it's going to unlock so much more for the company, right? They're looking at a venture deal, 10 to 15 billion. That's expanding into new markets. They're already expanding into new markets on their own. They're going into Mesa, Arizona, and they're going into a city in Indiana. I don't know what city, I forgot. But those are the two completely new markets that they're going to become the ILEC. So what does that unlock? What does that mean, right? One, it unlocks a new fiber customer, right? It brings new competition. They can now grow the share. That's new revenue that they were never able to obtain out of that market beyond wireless. Two, it unlocks wireless. They can now get into the living room with fiber, and now they can add on the wireless, and they can give that customer 25% discount that they were not able to offer before, unless, of course, they were a first responder or military, because they didn't have the fiber there, right? And then number three, it unlocks them having the right-of-way now and them getting C-RAN. It's now fiber to the C-RAN and then fiber to the cell site, which is going to do what? It's going to unlock cost savings because now they no longer have to rely on a third party. So if you catch my drift here, don't look at it in the short term. Don't look at it in the midterm. Look at it objectively. Look at the future. Look at where they're heading. They're showing you that any bigger purchase, any bigger investment that we will hear from AT&T is going to be geared towards fiber. We're not going to get an announcement of AT&T buying another wireless player, like a smaller rural player. They have FirstNet. They're getting reimbursements from the government. They're not going to do that. We're not going to see them go into media again this decade. Not going to happen. Not under current leadership. And then if Miguel Fresh does become CEO of AT&T, he's not going into media. So scratch that. So any bigger purchase from AT&T moving forward is going to be fiber. It's going to be on the fiber side. It's going to be on the fiber. It's all fiber. If they buy another company like Google Fiber, Frontier, Wow, if they do that, it's to complement or expand their fiber footprint. It's not wireless. I'm telling you guys right now, if you're looking at a future expansion of wireless, a bigger, buying a rural player like a US Cellular, right? You got to look at T-Mobile for that. T-Mobile is trying to remain as pure as wireless of a player as they can. Are they going to get into fiber? Maybe. Fiber to the home? Perhaps that could happen, right? We don't know. We heard some rumblings, but T-Mobile still says they're kind of far away from even committing to that. So they're still a pure wireless player. They haven't made the commitment. There's nothing official, so they're still pure wireless. Verizon, they're expanding Fios in some markets. They're getting into some new markets, but haven't made a full commitment towards that yet. But they're not a pure wireless player because they do have Fios. AT&T, I'm telling you guys right now, they are a fiber company. I know they have wireless. I know they got large assets. I know they spent a ton of money on C-band. But how do you unlock those assets and how do you get the return on investment? It's just not going to happen from wireless. You have to do it with fiber. Fiber is going to become the leading product for AT&T in the future. You can take that to the bank. You can take it where you want it. You heard it from me first, and that's where it's heading, right? I know they still got FirstNet. That's a separate company through AT&T. It's still going to get the government reimbursement. It's still going to get priority there, so that's good. But I'm telling you guys right now, if you're looking at M&A, if you're looking at hearing about the next big thing on AT&T Wireless, it's going to be fiber. They're not going to do wireless and take a huge priority towards is because they can't monetize it right now. They can't. They can do MEC, they can do the business thing, but all of that is going to be rely heavily on wireline. They're not going to do the millimeter wave like Verizon. They already said it. You can see it in the deployments. Fiber is AT&T's future. So make sure you guys stay tuned to the channel. Like, share, subscribe, follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Life. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.